Brazil had massive deforestation specifically related to coffee, and many other Asian countries have also been significantly affected with mass deforestation. And unfortunately, this is also tied with child slavery.
Hey everybody, did you know chocolate is in danger? I cannot believe it either. It's one of my favorite things. Well, today, California Cultured with Alan, he is going to help us unpack how important chocolate is and how devastating it is to the world in many, many ways. So come listen to this episode and be part of the world that we want to change and learn more about chocolate.
We're basically trying to engineer healthier cocoa butter, super high amounts of flavanol, as well as these really delicate and fine chocolate flavors into our product.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Plant-Based on Fire, where we talk about plant-based businesses and their inspiring stories to thrive in our industry. I'm your host, Bryan, and joining us today is Alan Perlstein. He is the CEO of California Cultured, a company that mass produces chocolate and coffee with a unique plant cell culturing process, and I can't wait to learn more. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Hi, Bryan. Thank you for inviting me on.
It is awesome. I forget what I saw. I saw some article on, and I am a total chocoholic. And so I saw some article about, the destruction of chocolate and everything else. And I'm just like, gosh, there has to be some smart, awesome vegan type entrepreneurs out there that are trying to change this paradigm. And I Googled you, and I think you and one other company kind of popped up on the radar. And so then we got connected on LinkedIn and stuff. And now here you are on the show, and I've got so many questions for you. But before we dive into that, let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about what initially drew you to the sort of field of cell cultured food and stuff. I think this was almost 20 years ago now?
Yeah, I started my career basically from my undergrad studies. I was looking for a really great organic chemistry class. I found one in Bayshore, Long Island. Ironically, at this time, I was also looking for a lab position. I love science, I love technology, and I know I wanted to do something by pushing some science forward. And I saw a posting on the wall looking for some students helping with something called the MPPS project, which is the Muscle Protein Production System project, which was a R&D project made by a small group of scientists that were looking to grow cell-cultured meat in space. And that was a significant and very exciting thing that I happened to sort of just come upon.
Very cool. And so I think and how do you pronounce the name of the company? Is it Oobly? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, that was my previous company. So after sort of working at this sort of project for a while, I was very excited about the different technologies that we were developing. And unfortunately, any investor that we talked to at the time thought we were completely nuts for suggesting cell-cultured meat.
Yeah.
And after a little while, I moved on. I worked in pharmaceutical research. From there, I was sort of inspired by sort of thinking if you could have better food products, better technologies, you could impact people's health, you could impact the planet, you could impact quite a bit. So I was inspired at that time to start a company originally called Miraculex. This was in 2014 in New York. I was working on a new type of sweetener that was a lot more healthier, and not only that, more sustainable to even produce. These were sort of really ancient proteins that only grew in tropical areas in Africa and in Asia. And for a long time, companies wanted to produce them, but they couldn't figure out how to source them or how to formulate them. So I spent about a good 2 years basically bootstrapping while building some of this technology. I figured out how to turn a plant, a lettuce, to produce these really interesting sweet proteins. I got some venture capital. I moved the company to California. Eventually went through some name changes to Joywell and then Oobly. And very recently, the company has launched the first protein sweetened beverages and chocolates in the world. And this was sort of a very big journey as well as a
Hmm.
very big goal that I wanted to do. So to bring what I think are going to be the next generation of better for you and better for the planet sweeteners. And going
That's
through this journey and building this previous technology, I also encountered some other issues such as chocolates not only disappearing, but unfortunately uh, it's just been causing significant havoc just from its supply chain and production for such a long time. For those who don't know, chocolate is only grown in tropical areas. It's unfortunately tied very closely to mass deforestation. Specifically, multiple countries have been hit by this, such as Ghana and the Ivory Coast. Brazil had massive deforestation, specifically related to coffee, and many other Asian countries have also been significantly affected with mass deforestation. And unfortunately, this is also tied with child slavery, forced labor, pollution, and the excessive use of pesticides and fertilizers. So it was very environmentally destructive,
hmm
and we basically were seeing that these crops were failing very fast, and the only way that the chocolate companies can uh, keep the price lower was to try to get more farms to come online. But unfortunately, there's been so much destruction due to climate change, disease, and some disease-causing insects. It
yeah.
has devastated the crop and led to not only skyrocketing prices, but also your favorite candy bars, as President Biden says, shrinking, and your cookies are shrinking because the prices of all these ingredients are rising and getting more and more difficult to produce. So we were basically looking at this nascent technology that existed for a very long time, and that was sort of the beginnings of this company.
That is amazing, and do you still have the other company as well, or it's just to switch its name to California
Yeah.
Cultured?
Oh no, the other company's still ongoing. They're launching products under the Oobly brand.
Hmm.
A really amazing, ultra low sugar but super tasty iced tea and chocolates. And
That's
that sort
awesome.
of that education in the chocolate sector sort of highlighted these supply chain issues, and that's sort of what brought it to light for me.
And it's so funny because I just watched with my kids the new Wonka movie a couple weeks back that finally came out on streaming, and it was just so cool to see his sort of coming story to life on how he created all these different kinds of chocolates. And I feel like you're now the Wonka of this cultured chocolate market. So I'm gonna ask you some silly questions
Sure.
because I don't think I'm a chocolate expert, but what I feel like I've seen, I've seen it in ketchup and whatever other products that are out there, is that as some of the ingredients get more expensive, they also dilute, right? Like most of the candy bars have switched from like chocolate to, chocolate liqueur or chocolate, it's just these sugar chocolates or whatever that have just, 1/10 the amount of chocolate in them. So they can still keep them big candy bars, but it's not really chocolate anymore, right? I mean, you see that dilution happening. So, um, yeah, thank you so much for showcasing, that and unpacking for us the problems that are rampant in the chocolate. And like, so chocolate is, in my opinion, one of my favorite vegan products out there. And it's so good to know that the end of chocolate doesn't have to happen. It can live on through companies like what you guys are doing. So, what was sort of the unique plant cell process? You've touched on that a little bit, but like
Yeah.
California Cultured has really unpacked this. And how is it like? I mean, it is in essence just chocolate, just manufactured in a much more sustainable way, right? Can you unpack that for us a little bit?
Yeah, in essence, what we're doing is every cell of a plant has the potential to to grow into a brand new plant. But if you could basically control um, lots of different elements of their environment, of the nutrients that they get, you're able to basically uh, convince them or trick the cells to grow into a different tissue. So what we've managed to do is we started with a single cocoa bean, and we've basically tricked it over tens of thousands of generations to basically grow and divide without the need of roots or leaves or bark or any of that. And we're able to do that incredibly fast. So we have a tank which we grow these cells in called a bioreactor or fermenter.
Mm-hmm.
We basically feed them sugar water and different plant hormones. And many of these plant hormones are found in coconuts and rice and tomatoes, but we extract it, and within the right ratios, these are basically instructions telling the cocoa cell of how to grow. So what we basically do is feed the instructions to these cells in very large fermenter tanks. If you want to think about like a winery or a brewery,
Yeah.
and from there we're able to get the little baby cocoa cells to divide and grow, and from there within a couple of days, uh, just starting with a small inoculation, maybe like a couple of liters. After a couple of days, the whole tank is basically full of these little baby cocoa cells.
Wow.
And then we take these cocoa cells and then we put them through another fermentation process with different cocoa specific yeasts and microbes which are found in nature. And from there, we're able to basically get a the right smelling, tasting cocoa, and from there we're able to put it into these cocoa grinders and other processes that the cocoa industry basically uses, or many chocolatiers use. So our product is basically something that could be put into many different industrial or even small artisanal processes that we're working with some chocolatiers to develop further.
That is awesome. That's such a great way to walk us through that process, because I've been on the tour of the breweries and some of the wine places, so I know exactly what you're talking about on that front. So talk to us, like, how does California Culture's technology address some of those key sustainability and ethical issues that are, as you mentioned, plaguing the chocolate and coffee industries?
Yeah, so what we're doing is shifting a large amount of the production, which usually takes many, many years, basically going from a small little sapling to a full-grown tree takes somewhere between 3 to 7 years. People don't even know if it's a really productive tree for like 8 to 10 years, and then even the lifetime of them are maybe 20 to 30 years, and they would have to get replanted quite often, and they also have to get a significant amount of pesticides and fertilizers to get the tree up to that production point and beyond. We're saving significant amounts of time, of labor costs, of environmental costs, and even during the pods being grown, the diseases are so rampant in places like Brazil. They literally have to wrap up every single cocoa pod with sort of a
Wow.
plastic bag to prevent some of these insects from attacking them. And they're also basically spreading really toxic pesticides all over these areas. So they're very carbon intensive to produce, as well as they also poison the area and poison many of the people basically dispensing these chemicals, which for the most part are kids. So there are some significant growing issues, and then even harvesting, there's significant amount of waste. Every single time it changes hands, there's waste basically happening from pods being underdeveloped through the quality of the beans themselves being rejected at different parts of the way, and then even the fuel for transporting it from bike to car to boat to truck, and goes through about 8 to 10 different vehicles before it even gets to a consumer's hand. So we're trying to chop up the significant amount of inputs as well as the energy for the transportation and the production. So putting everything together, we see it's a massive energy savings as well as a real better efficiency.
Yeah, that is awesome. And we are trying to help all the plant-based entrepreneurs out there with some of those tips and tricks on how do they get started. There's so many different ways that we can all be involved to change the world. And I commend you on your efforts. This has to be years and years of homework to get to this point of commercialization and stuff. What
Yeah.
was the biggest challenge that you faced in commercializing this innovative technology?
Yeah, we were very lucky to sort of find some amazing experts, which is one of the biggest challenges in this industry. So you're looking truly for a tiny needle in a global haystack. So we had to
Hmm.
recruit people from South Korea and Brazil and find experts in every corner of the globe who really knew how to develop this technology and scale this up, since it's such a niche part of biomanufacturing, and we had to sort of cobble together the team from the wine industry, the beer industry, the chemical engineering industry, and put that all together. And that was sort of a relatively unique way of thinking about building this company.
That is awesome. Yeah. And I think, thank you, Internet, because it has brought us all together globally. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I didn't even know you existed. And here you are now on the show with me. So reach out to some of those experts is the big takeaway there, because they're probably more than willing to help. And or B, you can get somebody from around the globe to help you dive in.
All right, if you've ever wanted to show off your plant-based lifestyle and do it in style, here's your chance. We have some of the most amazing t-shirts, hats, accessories, coffee mugs, and more at shop.realmeneatplants.com. We have statement t-shirts that will bring a smile to everyone's face. I love the I want tofu tonight tee. Plus, we have podcast tees, Real Women Eat Plants gear, Real Kids Eat Plants, and Real People Eat Plants, just in case men, women, and kids didn't cover it all. Yeah, we love you and love that you want to show off that healthy lifestyle of yours. Again, check out our high-quality gear at shop.realmeneatplants.com and enjoy.
Now, I'm a chocolate connoisseur, I like to think. So talk to me a little bit about the taste and the quality. How do you compare these things together? Break that down for the skeptics that out there that are like, well, this isn't real chocolate, right? So
Yeah,
help me dispel those myths.
yeah. So we're very focused on producing high quality ingredients and products that are not only really tasty, but can give many traditional chocolates a run for their money. So we've been very focused in making sure that we're producing amazing high quality cocoa butter. And we're very proud to say that it's the first in the world to be lead free, because unfortunately in
Wow.
traditional chocolate, lead is a problem because the cocoa trees are bioaccumulators, and many of the areas they grow in are usually volcanic soils, and they suck in huge amounts of lead. And
Mm.
that's been a significant issue. So our first ingredient that we managed to figure out how to make from these plant cells is cocoa butter, cocoa mass, which is fiber, which is the bioactive components of chocolate. And we figured out also how to produce them in very high levels. Another area why this is superior to many different types of chocolate. So many consumers love dark chocolate for its health effects and for the way it makes them feel. So there was a huge amount of science and research that was going into exactly why. Specifically, there was something called the Cosmos study, which was funded by Pfizer, Mars, and a subsidiary of Harvard, which studied over 20,000 patients in a double-blind study where they were giving these people about 500 milligrams of these cocoa extracts, which naturally basically occur in a dark chocolate by less than 1%, but they had to produce an incredible amount of chocolate and cocoa to harvest that small percent to make these pills, which was a very long time coming. And they saw that consumption daily of these cocoa flavanol pills reduced cardiovascular issues such as heart attack, stroke, and AFib by over 30%. So
Wow.
they saw a significant benefit. So we're basically trying to engineer healthier cocoa butter, super high amounts of flavanols, as well as these really delicate and fine chocolate flavors into our product. So we can basically create a chocolate that tastes like milk chocolate, but functions like dark chocolate, but has a lot more cleaner and sustainable profile. So that's
Yeah.
basically the engineering work that we've been trying to create. So we've created everything from mainstream dark chocolate flavors to fine flavors where you can have notes of raspberry or even cream
Wow.
inside of it without having any dairy. So a lot of the technological innovation is how we can make these flavors that people know and love, but make them pop and keep them relatively pure. And we basically think that as long as we could have these innovations that people want to see, as well as to price it at a relatively competitive price point, it's something what consumers want. And we think that this is one of the only technologies that could really make sure that consumers can have the chocolate that tastes amazing with the properties they want and the price they want, which is something that we think only this type of technology could produce.
That is awesome. Yeah, I am signed up for everything that you just said right there. Like that is phenomenal. Because I mean, as a person who's been vegan for such a long time, the milk chocolate is rampant, and we have to get to those more healthy chocolates. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the flavonoids and all that kind of research. So I absolutely love it. So beyond the chocolate and coffee, are there other products you're considering for cell culturing in the future?
Oh, there are a ton, but I'm gonna point to other companies as well. There's a company doing cell cultured avocado, another one in England doing wheat, another one in Asia doing rice. There are companies in Europe doing fruit and nuts. So
Hmm.
honestly, if there's any environmental catastrophe, lots of scientists or companies are working on these relatively important crops. So if the price of avocados, jumps up by a factor of 10, or disease hits wheat or something else, there are many scientists and entrepreneurs trying to work on these backup technologies. So we would be able, in theory, thinking about 10 or 20 or even 50 years from now, to grow like wheat, avocado, nuts, fruits in these types of systems anywhere in the world or even in space, which is the ultimate goal. That what you think about, like how are the future going to feed themselves? In essence, trying to take in CO2 and convert it directly into energy for these plant cells, which is a real sci-fi topic today, but eventually it's going to happen, and you're going to see tons of companies producing all these ingredients in new and novel ways.
That is awesome. You just had my science fiction brain firing on all cylinders there for sure. I mean, clearly chocolate's the most important, but I'm glad to know when we go to Mars, we will be able to get rice, wheat, and avocados as well on that front. So that is phenomenal. Let's go back to like the entrepreneurs that are listening to these podcasts. Like, what are some of the regulatory hurdles have you encountered, or do you anticipate as you bring cell cultured chocolate and coffee to market?
Yeah, so for as I said earlier, I sort of been in this industry for a long time, and seeing what the hurdles are, and we basically put in engineering requirements all the way at the beginning of when we started, saying that everything has to be completely food grade from one end to another. So we basically spent a lot of time sort of literally grabbing ingredients off the grocery shelves and testing its viability. And that was a way to very quick and dirty find what works and what doesn't work, as well as to show that this was a viable path. And by starting with these food safe ingredients that are already being sold, it basically lowered some of the regulatory risks that we were facing. And that's maybe another thing, sort of trying to understand where your future risks are, and trying to de-risk it as quick as possible with literally off-the-shelf ingredients or things that are much more available and lower costing. After that, we've also been working trying to find the best experts in the regulatory sciences as possible. Well, it could be pretty pricey to find one of these lawyers or experts, but when it comes down to it, it's better to pay once than to pay 2 or 3 times with some of these people. So that's another really important lesson, making sure that if you're going to be spending a lot of money, you would get the best person to direct you. And you don't necessarily have to do it all at once or wait till the last second. You could always reach out earlier to say, hi, I would like to work with you in a year. This is my plan of what to do and where we're going to go. How do you think is the best way to work with you, especially since my budget is going to be minimal until we hit a specific inflection point. So that also helped us a lot of figuring out what to do or not to do, and making sure we avoided some massive missteps within that regulatory process. And now we're basically all set for our regulatory application cycle this coming up quarter. So we're very excited that we were able to do things like that.
Yeah. Wow, that was just loaded with awesome advice. I can't underscore that enough. I mean, like, people like you and me are glad to give 5-10 minutes here and there for anybody that just has a quick question. And like, yeah, in a year from now, I'll charge you this much to help you get off your feet. So like, please feel free to reach out to the experts that you can find. And most people are more than willing to pour in a little of that. And then you made me think of this one quote I heard a week or two ago. It was more in the development space, but it was something like, weeks and weeks of manufacturing can save you hours of planning. So like, I totally agree with you on the planning side of it. But yeah, thank you for that advice. And talk to us a little bit about the money piece of it. Like, you touched on it a little bit. How have you approached funding and investment opportunities for California Cultured?
Yeah, so funding, like everything else, is also significant amounts of planning. Quite a while before I was looking to funding, I sort of started catching up with some peers, some friends, some reaching out to people online as well who would fund different technology like this, and start introducing ourselves literally months before, even years before we were looking to raise from them. And when we sort of reached out to everybody, even funds that were relatively advanced. And the reason why is you have to start planting your seeds now. So in a year or 2 years or 3 years, you never know where you could reconnect, but that's a relatively important part. Just establishing yourselves, cold calling, working with a team to send these things out. There's so many different ways to start planning and building your network, even though if you don't have anything, that's most of how many entrepreneurs start. It's just cold email and cold outreach, and you also have to build up your rejection muscle as well,
Yes.
because as anything in entrepreneurship, you're going to be rejected a lot. Just always the biggest entrepreneurs of our time got rejected dozens to hundreds of times. So, skill number one, getting rejected by many investors and still moving forward is probably another way how to prepare yourself. Because many times there's a very few percentage of the right people out there, and you just have to just navigate through crowds to get there, and that's just putting in the basic work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, very, very well said. I mean, it's just, I guess it's very similar to the cocoa tree. It takes 3 to 10 years to really get the cocoa tree growing the right thing. But if you're building your business, it takes that same amount of time. That's why most businesses fail within the first 5 years. You got to get out there and plant those seeds. So where do you see California cultured in the next 10 years? And how do you envision its role in the future of food?
Yeah, we basically see ourselves growing quite substantially over the next couple of years. Unfortunately, we've also seen what's been happening in these forest areas. They're significantly losing their capacity to grow cocoa and coffee. It's been getting worse and worse and worse. Just for instance, just seeing the severe shortages that many industries are facing today. And we're also seeing not only severe shortages, but there's an even larger demand for chocolate and coffee coming down the pipeline. There's a bigger demand in the US, South America, getting ravenous for chocolate and coffee, China, India, many of the world's most populated places are just getting a taste for these foods at the same time that they're disappearing. And this means either there's going to be massive deforestation or other issues happening, or the world can find more sustainable ways of growing the world's chocolate and coffee. And we think that this technology is going to be a very important piece of solving these significant shortages that the world's going to encounter. So we're going to be significantly ramping up over the next 5 to 10 years, and overall, you're going to see our chocolate pop up in lots of places, from everywhere from your skin cream with enhanced cocoa butter properties to lotions to even materials as well. So we're very excited with the sheer applicability of this type of technology. And as this gets more and more scaled up, it's going to be in a lot of places. So we're very excited that we're going to be launching our first products at the end of this year with Meiji Chocolate, who's known for making Hello Panda snacks and other products. And we're going to be launching some mainstream chocolates over the next year.
That is awesome. I mean, I can't say thank you enough for having that vision so many years ago to start on this journey. And while the hurdles you have faced, I'm sure have been numerous over the years, but I feel like you're so close to the finish line on many, many levels. And I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about the rampant problems in the chocolate coffee world and just how you're helping to be a big part of the solution for the future. So what can we do as a community to help you and California Cultured, and what are the best ways to get in touch?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch is reach out. We're at caculture.com. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Would love to connect. And if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them, and be on the lookout at the end of this year for some of our really groundbreaking chocolate products that we're going to be launching. So would love to connect.
Awesome. Is there anything in particular we can do as a community to help spread the word on anything in particular?
Yeah, just blast it on your socials and just learn more about our favorite ingredients and what's happening to them. I think education is always the first step, and just let people know. We have to work to save the world's species, and chocolate and coffee are super important. So we're a big fans of social responsibility when it comes with sustainable practices, and definitely try to save as many of these delicious species as we can.
That is awesome. Thank you again, Paul, for being here and spending some time and educating us on this. I think there's tons of great business tips too. So that is all the time we have for this episode of the Plant Based on Fire podcast. Again, thank you, Alan, for all your time and help on this, and sharing your insights and experiences with our community. So until next time, everybody, let's keep those fires burning.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Plant Based on Fire. We hope you enjoyed learning about the innovative plant-based businesses we featured today and got inspired to support them on their journey. Remember, plant-based eating isn't just a trend. It's a way of life that benefits your health, the environment, and animals. By choosing plant-based foods, you're making a positive impact on the world and helping to create a better and more compassionate future. If you want to join the Real Men Eat Plants community and get even more resources to help you go and stay plant-based, check out our blog, podcasts, and 30-day challenge at realmeneatplants.com. Thank you for tuning in to Plant Based on Fire, brought to you by Real Men Eat Plants. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us a review, and let us know what you think of this episode. Don't forget to tag us at Plant Based on Fire when you share this episode in your preferred social media. Wish to be a guest? We need to know about your plant-based business. Email us at pbof@realmeneatplants.com. We love hearing from our listeners. Thank you to our guests and to you, our listeners, for your support, and see you next time.